Hello and welcome to Successful SAP S/4HANA Journey Start Here CIO panel. I'm Manuel, Chief Product Officer from Protera. We are a globally certified SAP partner who helps companies migrate and run their SAP and related applications on the cloud. I'm very happy to be joined today by Brendan Verni, VP of IT from L.B. Foster. Brendan, hello.
Hi, Alan. Thanks for having us today. We're excited to talk about our journey.
Great, thank you. And also joined by Mark Guthrie, CIO of AM General. Hello, Mark.
Alan, how you doing? Good to see you. Brendan, good to see you as well. Looking forward to the conversation.
All right, fantastic, guys. Also, really quickly, wanted to give a special mention to our partner Analytics, with whom we are partnering to serve our joint customer, AM General. Now, to those of you in the audience, thank you for joining us today. In a recent ASUG Pulse of the SAP customer, over half of you, respondents, were either starting to make the move to SAP S/4HANA or will do so within the next 24 months. So today we're going to hear two very interesting stories of two individuals and two companies who have done exactly that. We're going to hear these great SAP S/4HANA stories from Brendan and Mark. We'll cover the business context. We'll talk about how the projects rolled out and what came next. And we'll finish up with some advice for those of you in the audience who are in the early stages of planning your journey to SAP S/4HANA. Now, please take a moment, get your questions ready. We'll collect these during the session, and we'll try to answer them during the chat as we go. Brendan, Mark, guys ready? All right. Mark, why don't we start with you? Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do. Of course, tell us about your company, and also tell us a little bit about your path to SAP S/4HANA. Roll the clock back to when you were just thinking about it, maybe building the business case, and just kind of set the context for the beginning of that journey. What was it like for you and AM General?
Alan, sure, happy to do so. Mark Guthrie, I'm the CIO at AM General. I've been here just about 3 years. AM General started their journey to S/4HANA before I got here in 2016. And we've been a SAP customer going back to 1998, right? Like many companies to address Y2K issues. So in 2016, realization was that we had heavily customized our previous version ECC, and it was a limiting constraint for us in many areas. From a security perspective, the company at that time was entertaining M&A activities, and also just to take advantage of the new features and functionality. It was a non-starter. So for us, it was an opportunity to not only address those limitations and constraints and technical debt, but also to provide a platform for growth and additional capabilities across the business. So for us, it was a journey that started in 2016. Happy to say that we migrated from ECC to S/4HANA in October of 2018, and just recently completed the upgrade from version 1709 to 1909.
Fantastic. Now, Mark, I know a lot of organizations are where you were those many years ago, probably starting to put that business case together. So again, those of you in the audience, put your questions into the chat. Let us know where you guys are and maybe some of the issues that you're facing. We'll see if we can try to get you some of those responses. Okay. Now, Brendan, over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Also tell us about L.B. Foster and what your company does. And what was the impetus or the origin for your journey to SAP S/4HANA?
Absolutely, Alan. So Brendan Verni, Vice President of IT at L.B. Foster. I don't think many people have heard of L.B. Foster. It's a manufacturing and a technology company located in the Pittsburgh area. L.B. Foster has two major business units focusing on rail and construction products, locations all across the world, Asia, China, heavy presence in the UK. Just one more thing about me, I'm an active ASUG user, and I'm also a teacher at Duquesne University where I teach students SAP. But let's talk a little bit more about our migration to S/4HANA. So I'm a little envious of Mark. He was already on ECC, but L.B. Foster was on a green screen and still is on a green screen JD Edwards system for many of our business units. But in 2015, they decided to move to ECC. So we didn't have a whole lot of time to customize it, not quite the same as Mark's journey. But we had about 20% of the locations complete, and at that point we decided to bite the bullet, implement S4, so we made the investment up front to implement S4 before we rolled it out to all the other locations. The big thing was, well, we already decided on SAP, let's get it upgraded so as we go to the other locations, it doesn't require the major disruption at the end. But we're also excited about the functionality about the user interface, reporting, and some of the enhanced tools. One of the big things and big reasons why we upgraded was the integrated production planning and length-based management that was available in S4 that was not available in ECC. So long story short, we took a 2-month break out of our implementations and implemented S4HANA as an upgrade from ECC. We're currently on 1709. Once again, Mark, I'm jealous you've upgraded, but we're getting there soon.
Now,
Brendan, Alan, sorry to interrupt. Brendan, I love your story. I love your story. And I guess I share, envy from your perspective on the benefits that L.B. Foster targeted. For us, it was largely about erasing that technical debt and providing a platform for further adoption and growth. I will say that immediately thereafter, so if we turn the clock back to early 2019, we gained some initial benefit in the backflushing capability. I'm sad to say that we didn't implement the Fiori tiles at that time. We've just picked those up here recently. But we really worked with our business partners, and I'll reiterate that we had a heavily customized version of ECC built over years and years. So as you would expect, they were very comfortable and familiar with the functionality. So this was a significant change, right? But a necessary change, as I indicated earlier. And so for us, that first half of 2019 was really to kind of get our feet stabilized and work with our business partners really to equalize the experience they just left, right? And so OCM was critically important. And really for us, the optimization part of the journey really for us began in pockets really by the middle of 2019 and then continued through 2020 and ultimately, led to our decision to move to version 1909 last December.
And I love that term you use, Mark, technical debt. I've actually never heard that. We have plenty of technical debt on our side too, but that's a great phrase.
Brendan and Mark, fantastic. A lot of companies, as I mentioned a couple of times, they are right now sort of where you guys were several years ago. And we encounter a lot of times organizations that are starting to put their business case together. They're looking at those benefits. I was just taking down some notes as you guys were talking. Very often the initial benefit that companies talk about when moving to SAP S/4HANA or even to a cloud architecture is, first of all, cost. They talk about cost savings. But then actually when you go and you do surveys, you see that cost isn't really the number one. It's more about agility, new functionality. You guys mentioned that. I'd like you to talk about, when you started to touch on this already, when you went live, what were the immediate benefits, whether it's cost, whether it's functionality, but also two other areas, which is one, simplification either of your systems or of your business, whether that was something that was important, or if you realize in retrospect that was a strong benefit. And then particularly talk about customizations. There's been a lot of talk about how organizations are going to deal with their customizations. I think both of you guys have very interesting stories in there. Again, Brendan, maybe we'll start with you and then we'll go to Mark. But talk about what were those immediate benefits. Companies are trying to figure out what are they going to get when they make the move. Tell us, again, turn back the clock. Tell us what were those immediate benefits. Let's start with L.B. Foster.
Yeah, so L.B. Foster is a rail industry company. It's an old school company, blue collar, over 100 years old, and they're on the cusp of a technology transformation, not only from what we use as an IT or as a business in terms of our computers and our software and our applications, but what we sell to our customers. So it was really important that we followed along that path as an IT organization. So like I said before, moving from that green screen, J.D. Edwards environment, we implemented S/4HANA, focusing on some of the functionality of PPDS, which is the replacement of or part of APO that was moved into S/4HANA. Huge benefit there in our planning and scheduling. We also had consolidated financial reporting. Independent of what ERP platform we're using, we're consolidating all the financials into our S/4HANA system. In addition, we had increased stability. Increased stability was a big thing. And part of that was partnering with Protera. Without Protera, we really struggled to keep our environment stable and up. Improvements in the user interface, overall speed. Not only am I supporting the environment, but I'm an end user of SAP. I go in every day and run cost center reports. I'm looking at cost centers. I'm looking at my invoices that are coming in. And as part of that, I can see them quickly. I don't have to wait for reports to run. So it really allowed us, and I think this is the most important part of it, to create an environment where we're not just reactive, which we were for 100 years. We're a proactive organization. All levels of the organization can see the data real time for the first time. And that's the most impactful part and the most impactful benefit we saw from S/4HANA.
Mark, tell us, actually, Mark, before you tell us your story, we can see this graphic right behind you, but you actually didn't introduce AM General. So for those very few persons who aren't familiar with AM General, go ahead and tell us what the company does. And then let's roll it forward and tell us what were those immediate benefits from your move to SAP S/4HANA.
Alan, for sure, yeah, and thanks for that. And I was actually going to play off Brendan's prompt. So I'm with AM General. We're a defense contractor. We're headquartered in South Bend. So we like to call ourselves a modest Midwest manufacturer, right? And very similar to what Brendan indicated, you know, our company this year in March celebrates our 50th birthday. Right, but we trace our beginnings back to the mid 1800s, the early days of what was then became the Studebaker Corporation. So I'll stick with the 50 years. So a very rich history. It's not unusual for us to have employees that have been here 30, 35, 40, 45 years, right? And it's a celebration of their commitment, but it speaks to the culture and maybe a little bit about the DNA of the organization, right? And so as Brendan was talking about L.B. Foster, I was drawing parallels with our situation. So looking back in time now, I mentioned 2016 is really the year we kind of got motivated. And we probably bit off the big elephant at that point. Maybe our appetite was bigger than our ability to consume. And what do I mean by that? So we built the plan around the ECC migration, but at the same time, we evaluated and opted in with Ariba. We evaluated and opted in with SuccessFactors. I mentioned South Bend. So our South Bend partner introduced us to Protera, and at the same time, not only essentially the on-prem migration from ECC, we went into the FedRAMP hosted cloud. Again, as a defense contractor, that's critically important to us. So security, you know, will resonate as an underlying theme in our entire journey. Right. So now if I look ahead to the deployment, we're coming up on we're in the fifth year of Ariba, SuccessFactors, and we've had quite a journey with S4. Protera's been with us the entire way. But for us, the benefits, there was some residual benefit just by this heavy lift from ECC into S4 with the data assessment, data scrubbing, data cleansing, right? Probably not different from a lot of the other stories out there. So there was residual benefit just to that activity. As Brendan mentioned too, from a predictability and stability of performance, moving to a hosted cloud-based platform, which we probably overbuilt, but we did so cautiously, right? Because we wanted really that user experience to be one of acceptance, right? Built on performance and predictability and stability. So, and that was our experience. The other value, and Brendan kind of touched upon this as well, is to get all the business partners and their associated data in the same location, right? So suddenly now we were experiencing more of what over time had grown to be more segregated vertical functional departments, and really now taking advantage of the integration of S4. The last thing I'll mention really is just, that continued OCM. For us, it's been a journey. The value pockets we mentioned, and we continue to learn more, and that optimization continues even now after migrating to version 1909.
Great, thank you, Mark. And again, thank you to our partner Analytics. Obviously, we're working with Analytics to introduce us to you and AM General. So thank you to them for their kind introduction and participating with us today on this webcast. Both Brendan and Mark, we did the prep, and you guys brought up a very interesting perspective really about user adoption. Okay, a lot of times when companies are looking for that move to SAP S/4HANA, they talk about the benefits, they talk about the cost, they talk about the flexibility and agility. I don't hear a lot of organizations actually talking that much about the user adoption aspects of it and how hard or how easy that is according to in relation to other projects that they may have rolled out. So both of you, whoever wants to go first, reflect back and maybe give some advice to those who are listening in today. How much of a challenge was or is adoption or rollout or deployment versus what you thought at the time? Did you think it was about the same, about what you thought it was going to be? Did you think it was maybe smoother than you thought? Or did you think maybe it had some more challenges than you had thought at the time? So either one, jump in and let us know what you thought about user adoption.
Well, I'll go ahead, Mark, if that's okay. L.B. Foster's 100-year-old plus company, family owned. There's still the chairman of the board still has the name Foster. So you can imagine it's a legacy company. It has countless legacy processes behind that. And change management is key to driving that user adoption. Getting the users to embrace the technology, get excited about the change, get excited about making their process better. And if you don't make that part of your journey, part of your process, part of your project and implementation, you will not be successful. And because of that, there were many times where we weren't successful in that. So although we're implementing the various sites, we're implementing S4 or we implemented S4, now we got to go back and pull those old processes out of them, right? I worked at a company a few years ago and they were still using a stock take form from 1972 in their storeroom. And we have that here at L.B. Foster also. So get rid of those forms, put them in the shredder, and work with the users to embrace technology, all levels of the organization. And that's where your success will come in the end.
Brendan, before we go to Mark, how long do you think it takes, well, what would you recommend to organizations who are doing the plan to say, hey, when we make that move to S4HANA, you're going to have some time to kind of get the users back up to speed. Is that weeks? Is that months? I mean, how long to, not to get back to where you were, but, till everyone sort of fully accepts and adopts S4? How long do you think companies should be planning when they're thinking about that?
I absolutely think there's two factors to that. It's the maturity of your end users in terms of knowledge of the system, both the old system and the new system, but also the level of change. I think an upgrade from ECC to S4 doesn't have that same level as a brand new implementation of SAP. So I always do it on a 6, 12, 18-month scale is kind of where my head's at, depending on the maturity of the organization, the willingness to change of the individuals, and overall the large scale of the change. For our environment to go from ECC to S4, I would say it was a 6-month journey. But for the sites that are implementing from scratch, it can be anywhere from 6 to 18 months, depending on just how large and complex the site is and really the level of engagement for the user base.
Mark, what about you? What was your deployment story? And then how long do you think it would take? How long should a planner plan for when they're thinking about their move to S4?
It's very similar in some respects. As we launched into 2019, after having gone live October of 2018, we took a checkpoint survey, right? And first, let me say that we had extremely supportive executives from the get-go, right? From 2016 through 2018 and beyond. And we needed that because that customization for us there was a mandate to not touch source code, right? Which is a complete deviation from what we had really almost over 2 decades prior to that. And so we knew there was significant transformation here, significant OCM journey. So we limited really even any customizations to only those that had to get executive approval. So as we started 2019, we took a survey checkpoint and we got the expected results, right? We had moved their cheese. Right. And so what they now had was a system that was unfamiliar to the masses. Yeah. Right. We had our core business process owners. Right. And that's where the knowledge resided. But we knew it was going to take time. And we had very patient executives. But we committed that by mid-year, we would take another survey and we would be in better shape. I'm happy to say that so by July of 2019, we did that. We repeated the survey. And in most functions at that point, we had taken them back to same ease of use that was their experience in that legacy, heavily customized environment environment they had for years. So that was a check the box. Okay, we said we were going to do, and then we did what we said, right? And now we know that there's further adoption and optimization. So that was kind of the 6-month checkpoint. A year later, probably spring of 2020, we took another survey, and we started to see the tide was turning more towards, hey, this is easier, right? We're gaining confidence. We're achieving the benefits that we had laid out 18 months prior. So I'm right with Brendan in terms of the duration of the journey, and it really doesn't end, right? So I mentioned success factors before. We deployed LMS inside of success factors in late 2019, and we have utilized that as a learning platform, right? To put S4 training in there, not only for maybe new business process owners or subject matter experts, but also as we onboard people into their new roles, right? And it was important for us to leverage the platform that we had at our disposal. I will tell you that the journey continues. The reason we updated to 1909 just this last December was that we had to address our boundary systems, right? All the interconnections with S4 at its core, and we wanted to get to a modern S4 platform as well. And so, the journey continues. So 6, 12, 18, and it's a journey of continuous improvement.
Let's continue on that thread, Mark, and then we'll get back to you, Brendan. The continuing journey. Let's talk about that, and then we'll have time for one more question after. Tell us a little bit about today, if you can, touch upon your relationship with Protera and whether that's and how that's helping you, and with your future plans. And tell us a little bit about what that future looks like. What are maybe some of the projects you're looking into? Maybe some advanced areas that now that you're on a new platform, you've got a partner that can help. Maybe with more of the day-to-day stuff, maybe frees you up for some transformational stuff. So just give us an idea of a day in the life today and a day in the life in the future as you've got some of these maybe longer-term projects, going. Tell us what that looks like.
Yeah. Alan, thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, and there was a couple things that are relevant. I mentioned back in 16, we maybe bit off more than we really had the ability to consume, and so even as we've stabilized and modernized the S4 platform, we've also done some puts and takes. Okay, Ariba wasn't working for us. I think more more an indictment of our internal people, process, technology approach, but we used that to put ourselves in position to build out an e-commerce platform. And so we're looking forward this year to a slow planned rollout for SAP Commerce Cloud. We believe we've selected a partner that's going to be with us on that journey, and that journey is going to take us well into 2022. And then there's a couple of key business initiatives that will facilitate company growth in the international arena. So we're looking forward to that opportunity to build that with SAP. I would say as well, the announcement last fall of the partnership between SAP and Siemens also was very meaningful to us. Both of those are arguably two of our key enterprise platforms. And so as we listen to SAP and Siemens kind of build that roadmap ahead, that convergence, it's meaningful to us. We were able to achieve in early 20, the engineering bomb into the manufacturing bomb. And I'm guessing many of the ASUG partners here on the call have done that years ago. But for us, that was a significant accomplishment. So now we're looking forward to that partnership providing benefit to us as we look to those enterprise platforms. Those things are all really combining to set us up for what we believe is an exciting future to continue not only to drive optimization in S4, but in some of the other supporting platforms as well. And we're looking at CRM rollout as well. Again, I mentioned our international business, and that's where our growth will come from, if not M&A related. And so we believe now that we've got the components to continue to grow AM General past their 50th year into the next several years.
Mark, you said the word platform several times, and I know that's a theme that comes up often, the idea of not just a technical platform, but a sort of a business platform, the ability to get the organization to a state where it can then more quickly execute on their strategic objectives, which I think is something that's come out in your discussion there. Brendan, over to you. Tell us a little bit about, it's today. Maybe touch on the work that we Protera are doing with you, but also tell us about the future. What is the future? What's in store for the future for L.B. Foster?
Well, I think both are one and the same, hopefully. We have a great relationship with Protera. We've been working with Protera for several years now. And the most important thing I could say, my answer is more tactical. When I go to bed at night, I feel much more comfortable knowing that Protera is supporting my SAP environment. And I mean that candidly. But SAP is a unique beast. And it's not the same person that supports an SAP system as they do SQL database or just a regular Windows server. So we required some specialized technical skills, not only on the HANA side, but on the Linux side to support our environment. In working with Protera, we were able to keep the environment up. I don't remember a time it was down in the last year. And I can't say that about all our environments. So Protera helped us drive zero unplanned downtime. I don't have to worry about backups, downtimes, unplanned outages. But Protera just in general is a great example of partnering and creating that ease of mind. So as we progress forward, we're actually going to expand the partnership with Protera. We're looking at different ways and different systems we can put into the AWS cloud working with Protera. And also in terms of our SAP journey, we are just looking to roll it out at as many sites as we can in the next 3 years to get 100% of our revenue going through the SAP environment. Right now we're consolidating all the financials, but I want all the manufacturing, all the sales, all the purchasing to go through SAP. So we have one lens to the customer, one lens to our executives, and one lens to all our employees at L.B. Foster.
Thank you, Brendan. And we, of course, are very proud and happy to be partnering with you and looking forward to a long and fruitful relationship with you and with you, Mark. Okay, guys, last question.
Alan, can I just
Mark,
say one? Brendan, you triggered something, and I would say that on our side, I don't think we realized the asset that we had in the relationship with Protera. I'm gonna say that we let it get a little stale throughout 19, and we brought Protera along with our implementation partner and SAP all together in June of 2020, and we did so to focus on technical stability initially. And I got to tell you, within a month and a half, we had the three technical components there working side by side very cohesively, and getting that in place, that technical stability allowed us then to focus on adding value from a business perspective. So that technical upgrade part was very straightforward based on those partnerships. I will tell you, we were able to do dress rehearsals, and so when it came to cutover, it was a weekend. It was really from Friday, 5 p.m., and we were available to have people into the environment Saturday afternoon, which was like almost 24 hours ahead of schedule. So it was the right partners, and I agree with you. Application availability of that environment is exactly what we expected it to be. So much, though, you remember earlier I said we went high in terms of setting up that environment. We're working now with analytics and with our Protera partner to right-size it, and that will drive direct cost savings, right? Music to IT professionals' ears, right? If I can right-size that environment and give money back or ask that money be used for investment, that's a great story.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you again, Mark. Mark and Brendan, before we wrap up, any final words of advice to your peers who are listening now and who are where you were a couple of years ago, maybe just on the beginning of making that journey? Half the respondents said they're going to be making that journey, either they're starting it or in the next 24 months. So what would be your final words to advice to anybody who's maybe listening in today and trying to learn from your experiences? Mark, maybe you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. And this is a lesson you learn the hard way and never repeat it, right? And that is go into the activity with an understanding and a definition of what success is, right? Mm-hmm. So post-implementation, and our hypercare this period with this upgrade was very short, which means we were able to get to that value achievement, that business value achievement quicker. We weren't so certain exactly what that value equation was, so we kind of developed it on the fly. But my advice is go into the journey. We hit it earlier. Understand the length of OCM, right? Don't cut on your OCM activities and getting people involved, but also know what you're expecting to achieve 6 months, 12 months, 18 months later in terms of the value from your investment. So in terms of ROI, that's going to be very meaningful, not only to the CFO, but the executive leadership, because it allows you then to say, this is how we laid it out, and now we're measuring ourselves against that, and we're going to deliver to you our report card at these intervals that demonstrate that we're responsible with the investment you've entrusted us with.
Fantastic. Brendan, how about you? Final thoughts or advice for those who are listening in today?
Well, I loved what Mark said, getting everybody involved early, right? Make everybody that's involved in the project, from the business to IT to the executives, all part of the project and a part of the success. Even the line level employees implementing, for example, we implemented barcoding solutions, and we got them involved in developing the solutions and building the UI and helping them understand how it's going to make their lives easier. So I really love that point Mark made. In addition to that, something that's more unique to my experience is the return on investment isn't always going to solve for S4 in terms of those tangible benefits. And that's sometimes very hard to sell to executives. So SAP will work with you directly on that, help you understand what benefits there are. So work through that process. But what it came down to with me is I worked at a company before here, and we weren't able to make the ROI solve. And our S4 project didn't get off the ground, unfortunately. But as we move forward with LB Foster, we were able to prove that the intangible benefits were there. There were benefits, both tangible and intangible, that would make this company better and grow our technology platform in the right direction. We focused on uptime, analytics, getting the data in the hands of the user to make real-time decisions. ERP systems were always touted as integrated systems, and I really don't feel that was true until we got to S4. We eliminated those silos, and it quickly is becoming a reality that it is truly an integrated system where people can make decisions real time if they embrace the technology and use it to its best benefit. So,
fantastic. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing. Looking forward to hearing more from both of you as your journeys continue. Again, thank you so much, Brendan Verni, Vice President of IT from LB Foster. Thank you so much, Brendan, for joining us today.
My pleasure.
And Mark Guthrie, CIO of AM General. Mark, thank you. It was a wonderful conversation, so thank you, Mark.
Alan, more than welcome. And Brendan, very nice to share the stage with you. Nicely done.
Absolutely.
I'm Alan Manuel, Chief Product Officer of Protera, and thank you in the audience for joining us today for a successful SAP S/4HANA journey start here, our CIO panel.